What truth about adult life broke you?
I was 24 when I realized the harshest truth about adult life. No one is coming to save you. As a child, I thought adults knew what they were doing, that at some point life would become normal, that one day I would wake up and everything would fall into place. Stable job, money, confidence, people around. And then my father died, and the world didn't stop. I remember sitting in the hospital after his death thinking, at least at work they'll understand. 2 days later, my boss texted me, "Can you come in on Friday?" And that hit me. Adult life doesn't care that you're hurting. Rent has to be paid. Bills have to be closed. You still have to get up in the morning and pretend you're functioning. The scariest part wasn't even that. It was how quickly people returned to their own lives. The first week, everyone wrote, "Stay strong. How are you? If you need anything, text me." A month later, almost no one mentioned it anymore. And I don't blame them. I just realized then everyone has their own war in their head. You can be living through the worst period of your life, and people around will still laugh, go to work, post stories, and keep living. Adult life doesn't give you a pause. And that's when I stopped waiting for someone to come and fix me, because sometimes the only adult who can save you is yourself.
I was 27 when I realized that love by itself guarantees nothing. I was with a guy for almost 6 years. We went through university, moving, being broke, countless arguments. I really thought, if people go through so much together, they stay forever. I was wrong. The problem was that we got so used to each other that we stopped noticing how slowly we were killing the relationship. We barely talked, ate in silence, lay next to each other, but as if on different planets. For a long time, I convinced myself this was a normal stage of adult life, that everyone goes through it. And then, one evening, I heard him laughing on the phone in the bathroom, laughing the way he hadn't with me in a long time. And in that moment, I understood everything. He didn't yell, didn't cheat in my face, didn't do anything dramatic. He just gradually stopped loving me, and that was much more painful. The worst truth of adult life is that sometimes people leave long before the actual breakup. You can wake up next to someone every day and still be alone. We broke up a few months later, and you know what broke me most? Not the breakup itself, but realizing how much time I spent trying to save something that had already died long ago.
I was 29 when I realized something that truly broke me. In adult life, you can do everything right and still lose. At school, they always told you, try hard, be a good person, work, and everything will work out. I believed it completely. I studied fine, stayed out of trouble, worked since university. While my friends partied, I was doing side jobs because I wanted to build a future. And for a while, it felt like everything was going right. I had a girlfriend, a job, plans. We even talked about an apartment and living together. And then the company where I worked almost 5 years just cut half the people without warning. They called me into a meeting room at 9 a.m. By 9:20, I was already standing outside with a box of my things. And you know what my boss said? "Don't take it personally, it's just business." After that, everything started collapsing fast. I couldn't find a job for almost half a year. Money was running out. I started selling my equipment to pay rent. My girlfriend supported me at first. Then small arguments started, then big ones. One evening she said, "I don't recognize you anymore," and she left. The worst part wasn't being alone. It was how much I hated myself for it. I thought if life fell apart, it meant it was my fault. But with time, I realized the cruel truth. Adult life isn't always fair. Sometimes good people lose. Sometimes those who try the hardest burn out first. Sometimes love doesn't save you. Sometimes jobs you gave years of your life throw you out in 20 minutes, and no one prepares you for that. Now I'm 32. I've slowly rebuilt my life. And you know what changed most? I stopped thinking that a person's value is defined by success. Because one day, life can take everything from you, and the only thing left is yourself.
I was 26 when I realized that adult life can make you lonely, even among people. After university, I moved to another city. At first, it felt like the beginning of real life. New job, new acquaintances, pretty Instagram photos, evening walks through the city. I really thought, now everything will be like in the movies. But after a year, I realized I hardly talked to anyone for real. Everyone was busy, some building careers, some building families, some just disappearing without explanation. Friendship became like trying to catch people between their schedules. We should meet sometime. I'll text later. Sorry, too much work. And the scariest part? It became normal. I remember the moment that broke me. I had a very hard day. I was sitting on the kitchen floor crying about how exhausted I felt, and suddenly realized I had no one to call. Not because I had no one at all, but because everyone was already living their own lives. As a child, you think friends will always be there, that people will stay just as close. But adult life slowly stretches everyone in different directions, sometimes without fights, without drama. Just one day, you stop being part of each other's lives. It took me a long time to stop taking it personally. Now, I have a very small circle of people, but each of them is real. And maybe that's another truth of adult life. Better to have 2 people who truly care than 100 contacts who will never call first.
I was 31 when I realized the most painful truth about adult life. Poverty drains not only the body, it slowly destroys you psychologically. As a child, I thought poor people just didn't try hard enough. That's what almost everyone around said. Movies made it look simple too. Work more and life will change. I believed that until I hit rock bottom myself. At 27, I opened a small business with a friend. We invested all our money, worked without weekends, slept 4 hours. The first months even went okay. I really thought, just a little more and we'll make it. Then the crisis started. Clients disappeared, debts grew. My friend, after half a year, just said, I can't anymore, and left. And I was left alone with loans. At first, I tried to hold on, worked 2 jobs, drove nights, ate the cheapest food, sold my things. But you know what was the scariest? Not hunger, not exhaustion, not even the fear of losing the apartment. The scariest was how poverty starts changing your personality. You're constantly tense, constantly counting money, constantly living with the thought, what if tomorrow gets worse? One day, I stood in a store 10 minutes choosing between 2 packs of pasta because one was cheaper by a few coins. And suddenly, I caught myself thinking, when did my life become like this? I stopped going out, stopped answering friends. I was ashamed. When people asked, how are you? I automatically said, fine, though inside I was falling apart. The worst was on my mom's birthday. I didn't go to my parents because I had no money even for a proper gift. Lied that I was busy. I remember sitting alone in the apartment looking at her photo on my phone, and it killed me to realize money had started controlling my whole life. That was the first time I understood why adults are so tired. Because when you live in constant survival, you have no strength left to be yourself. You don't dream, you don't think about the future. You just try to make it to the next month. The most painful part is that no one sees it. People only see the result. A tired guy, quieter, laughs less, disappeared from social media. But no one sees how hard you're fighting inside. Now my life is more stable. I closed most debts, learned to sleep normally again, even started enjoying small things. But that version of me sitting in a dark kitchen counting the last money until payday will always stay in my head. And that's when I realized adult life doesn't always break you with one big tragedy, but with slow, daily exhaustion that lasts for years.
I was 28 when I realized that sometimes you can give someone the best years of your life and still remain not enough for them. I met him at university. He was charismatic, funny, confident. Next to him, I felt special. At first, everything was perfect. He wrote me huge messages, came in the middle of the night if I felt bad, said he had never loved anyone like this, and I really thought this is true love. Then small things started. He could hurt me as a joke, disappear for a whole day and say I was overreacting, ruin my mood, and then convince me I was too sensitive. But I kept finding excuses, because when someone hurts you, not all the time, but occasionally, you start living for those rare moments of warmth. That's the most dangerous. I lost myself very slowly, stopped wearing things he didn't like, stopped talking to some friends, even stopped saying what I thought out loud so I wouldn't provoke conflict. And the scariest part was I didn't even notice when it became normal. One day, a friend told me, "You've become smaller next to him." And I got offended at her. Now I know she was right. We were together almost 7 years. 7 years of my life I spent trying to earn the love of someone who had long stopped respecting me. The last straw was very simple. I got sick and ended up in the hospital. Nothing deadly, but I was scared. He came only once, for 20 minutes, then said, "I have a lot going on right now," and left. I remember lying under the drip, staring at the ceiling, suddenly realizing if someone doesn't care when you're hurting, that's not love. We broke up a month later. It was very hard. After such a relationship, you start doubting yourself, thinking the problem is you, that you're not pretty enough, not interesting enough, not good enough. But the most painful truth of adult life is that love alone doesn't save you. You can love someone deeply and still be destroyed next to them. Sometimes leaving isn't weakness. Sometimes it's the only way to save yourself.
I was 33 when I realized that adult life doesn't make people wiser. As a child, I thought that after a certain age, everyone understands life, that adults are confident, know the right answers, and control the situation. But then I became an adult myself, and I realized most people are just good at pretending. I worked in a big company for almost 6 years, and honestly, I was always the right employee. Came earlier than everyone, stayed late, took extra tasks. I thought if I worked hard enough, they would surely appreciate me. And they did promote me. The problem was that after that, I saw for the first time how things really worked. Managers I thought were geniuses panicked over any problem. People who looked confident actually had no idea what to do. Decisions were often made not because they were right, but because someone was afraid to take responsibility. And you know what broke me most? I realized no one ever fully grows up. Everyone is still afraid, still doubts themselves, still doesn't know if they're making the right choice. They just get better at hiding it with age. One day, after a very hard workday, I sat in my car in the parking lot looking at the office building, and the thought hit me. We're all just tired children pretending to be adults. The boss who yelled at everyone in meetings was afraid of losing his job. The colleague who always showed her perfect life on Instagram was taking antidepressants and crying in the bathroom. The friend who always joked and looked the happiest once admitted to me he hated his life. And then I understood another scary thing. Adult life isn't the moment when you suddenly understand everything. It's the moment when you learn to live despite not fully understanding anything. It actually made me feel lighter because I stopped demanding myself to be the perfect adult. And maybe that's one of the most important things I've learned. No one has the instructions for life. We're all just trying to make it through somehow.
I was 30 when I realized that some dreams die quietly, without drama, without a big finale. Just one day you wake up and realize you're not even trying anymore. As a child, I wanted to be an artist. I drew constantly, in class, at home, during university lectures. I thought if you loved something strongly enough, it would surely become part of your life. Then adult life started. Rent had to be paid, work had to be done, stability had to be considered. I took a regular office job temporarily and stayed there 7 years. At first, I still drew in the evenings, then only on weekends. Then, when I had time, and one day I realized I hadn't opened my sketchbook for almost a year, and it scared me. The most painful part wasn't even that I didn't become an artist, it was how easily a person can betray themselves for survival. I remember the moment that broke me. At a corporate party, everyone was talking about KPI, loans, apartment repairs, rising prices, and suddenly someone asked me, "What do you actually love to do?" And I didn't know what to answer because my whole identity for years had revolved around work and exhaustion. That evening, I came home, opened an old drawer with my drawings, and just cried. That was me, the real me, the girl who once dreamed of exhibitions, travels, and creativity. And I realized a very scary truth. Adult life doesn't always take your dreams away immediately. Sometimes it takes them so slowly you don't even notice the moment you stop being yourself. After that, I started drawing again. Not for money, not for success, just to bring back the part of myself I had almost lost.
I was 34 when I realized the most dangerous thing in adult life is getting used to being unhappy. I got married at 25, normal job, normal apartment, then a child. From the outside, my life looked absolutely right, exactly the way everyone imagines it. And for the first years, I really thought happiness looked like this: stability, routine, calm. But then I started waking up with a strange feeling of emptiness. There wasn't any big tragedy, no one died, no one betrayed anyone. I just stopped feeling alive. Every morning was the same: wake up, work, home, sleep. And the scariest part was how quickly a person adapts to this. You tell yourself, everyone lives like this. This is just adult life. I just need to endure. I repeated that for years. One evening, my son asked me to play with him, and I snapped over something stupid because I was exhausted after work. He just quietly went to his room. And you know what broke me? I suddenly saw myself in him as a child. My father was also untouchable because he was always tired. And then I realized I had become the person I was afraid of becoming as a kid. That night, I sat in the kitchen for hours thinking, when was the last time I was truly happy? And I couldn't remember. The cruelest truth of adult life is that unhappiness rarely comes as a catastrophe. More often, it comes quietly, in the form of routine, fatigue, life on autopilot. You don't notice when you stop laughing, stop dreaming, stop feeling anything except exhaustion. And then one day, you look in the mirror and don't recognize yourself. After that, I went to a therapist for the first time in years, started working less, spent more time with my son, and strangely, I realized how long I had just been living in survival mode. Now I'm afraid of only one thing: getting used again to a life that slowly kills me.
I was 27 when I realized that beautiful people can be very lonely too. In school and university, I was constantly told, "You're lucky with your looks. You'll never have problems in life." And for a while, I believed that too. Guys always paid attention. On social media, everything looked perfect. Photos, travels, parties, people really thought I was happy. But no one saw how lonely I felt. The problem was that many people didn't fall in love with me. They fell in love with the image. They liked how I looked next to them, liked showing me to friends, liked having a beautiful girlfriend, but very few cared what was in my head. One guy once told me, "You're so beautiful, you can't possibly have problems." I laughed then, but later I came home and cried half the night because that was the truth of how people saw me. No one thought I could hurt, that I could be afraid, insecure, feel unwanted. When I was 25, I went through a very hard period: panic attacks, insomnia, eating problems. And you know what I heard most often? "But you're pretty. Why would you be sad?" That phrase broke me because I realized people often only see the shell. The most painful truth of adult life is that looks can attract attention, but they don't guarantee love, don't guarantee understanding, don't guarantee someone will stay when you're hurting. One day, I deleted Instagram for almost 3 months, and suddenly I saw that most people didn't even text me. As if without pretty photos, I stopped existing. That was when I first started learning to be myself, not the girl everyone likes. And honestly, it was much harder than I thought.